So he goes on to discuss sex ed. He says that some schools teach abstinence only and not science. He says that you can't teach sex ed health class. You can't teach it with abstinence only, and you can't teach it with contraceptives only. He says that you need to teach abstinence and contraceptives. And he's like, we need to teach science. He said, quote, "There's nothing wrong with science. Let's teach science to our kids." Okay, if you want to teach science to our kids, let's teach them that life, human life, begins at fertilization or at conception. It's the same thing. I checked out a book. It's called The Human Embryology, 3rd edition, by Dr. Patton. And there's a passage in here, a sentence, on page 43, talking about fertilization. It is the penetration of the ovum by sperm and the resultant mingling of the nuclear material each brings to the union that constitutes the culmination of the process of fertilization and marks the initiation of the life of a new individual. So and this isn't just this textbook. There's several others. I'm still waiting on some others to come in, but I found some quotes online that says life begins at conception. This is pure science. This is not based on personal opinion. This is not based on religion. This is just science. There's another quote in here that says, "There is perhaps no phenomenon in the field of biology that touches so many fundamental questions as the union of the germ cells and the act of fertilization. In this supreme event, all the strands of the webs of two lives are gathered into one knot, from which they diverge again and are rewoven in a new individual life history. The elements that unite are single cells, each on the point of death, but by their union, a rejuvenated individual is formed, which constitutes a link in the eternal procession of life." That quote is by F.R. Lilly in Problems of Fertilization. So, you have it right from the source, that life begins at conception. So, if we want to teach our kids science, let's teach them that. Let's teach them that life begins at conception and ends at natural death. And anything that intentionally stops that is killing that life. And especially as an unborn baby, innocent life. So, Obama, if you really want to teach our kids science, that's scientific fact. He says that it's a false argument to say that the only way to prevent disease and unintended pregnancy is abstinence education. He's saying that both abstinence and contraceptive education is needed. Now, I don't have any quotes or anything to back this up, but contraceptives aren't always 100% guaranteed. The only thing that will keep you from having an unwanted pregnancy is to abstain, to just not have sex. That's the only way of completely guaranteeing that you will not get pregnant unintentionally. And let's see. He says, here he's bringing his faith kind of into everything, there is a moral component to prevention, and we shouldn't be shy about acknowledging it. We need to encourage young people to show reverence towards sexuality and intimacy. But even as we are teaching those lessons, we must never be willing to consign a teenage girl to a lifetime of struggle because of a lack of access to birth control or a lifetime of illness because she doesn't know how to protect herself. End quote. That's great that he is saying that we need to show respect towards sexuality, and that's quite refreshing actually to hear, because so often it's just sex is talked about as if it's, you know, it's not sacred, and it's abused, basically. And I'm happy that he's saying that. But, you know, he turns in the opposite direction by saying that we need to provide teenagers with birth control, and by saying, oh, well, here's birth control, so that you're telling them on one hand to regard sex as something sacred and, you know, private and personal, but then on the other hand you're saying, well, but if you do have it, make sure that you're protected. It's so I heard a very good analogy of that. Here could be one. You know, don't drive over the speed limit, but if you do, make sure you don't hurt anybody. Make sure you're, you know, it's stuff like that. So, you know, don't do this bad thing, but in case you do, make sure that, you know, whatever. It doesn't. It's two-sided, and that's what I don't like. Is that Obama says we need to tackle the tragedy of unintended teen pregnancy. If we reduce teen pregnancy, we can also reduce poverty. Again, end quote. Again, if the only way to really prevent teen pregnancies from happening is to teach abstinence. You know, some people think, oh, you know, birth control, that'll help with abortions, that'll help reduce the abortion rate, that'll help reduce poverty. There is just one second. Okay, another one of my favorite books is called Abortion Questions and Answers by Dr. and Mrs. Wilkie, Willke. I got this from the Cincinnati Right to Life organization. They give it to me for free, as well as tons of pamphlets, so it was really nice of them to do that. And it's set up in a question and answer format, so it's very easy reading. They have facts, they have footnotes, so you can see where their sources are coming from. And these people have spoken all over the country for years and years. But one of the queries that's in here, but legalizing abortion was sold to us as a cure for many of our social ills. Let's look at the record. So the number of illegitimate births in 1970, which was before abortion was legalized, was 10.7%. In 1990, it was 26.2%. Children with single mothers, 11% in 1970 and 22% in 1990. The violent crime rate per 100,000, in 1970 it was 36.4. In 1990, it was 73.2. Anyone think it's connected? I do. I really think it is. So, if he's saying if we reduce teen pregnancy, we can also reduce poverty, since abortion has been legalized, I don't see how, you know, single parenthood is being reduced, or illegitimate births is being reduced, even the crime rate. It's not helping. There has to be another solution than what we have right now, and that is for abortion to be ended, for us to teach better sex ed to our kids, and to not offer birth control. I know many people that are watching this are probably fuming at me right now, but that is okay. That is what keeps me going, actually, is when people get upset or would want to get in a debate. I'm just like, hey, I'm gonna put my opinion out there, put out what I believe. So